just a little bit of a little bit of welcome before we get started and before Travis hits record. Yes, this will be recorded, and it may be shared to so other people might see it. But because nobody's name is showing up except for me and Amaya's and Travis's, there's no need to like change your name or anything like that. So with that being said, just a couple of housekeeping rules before we get started. There will be a time for questions towards the end, and you will be Travis will unmute you if you raise your hand. So you'll have to like go into the chat and just raise your hand. Travis will unmute you and you can ask your question live. Otherwise, the Q&A is open, so please feel free to drop questions. Travis is helping me out as my tech support with Zoom today. And also, if you all haven't noticed, we have live captions, which I'm super excited because I want to make sure that this is as accessible as possible. And with that, I'll just introduce what we're doing today. So today is indeed go Travis. Today is a special, very special, exciting time for me, but I hope for everybody else. I will be interviewing my mentor, the lovely Amaya Smith, for our conversation on mentors and change makers. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So first, hi Amaya.
Hey, Rachel.
um, so Amaya is my guest today. Many of you know her as the Vice President of Communications and Marketing. I believe that's the full title, correct? Communications and Marketing.
Sounds good.
Look, hey, we gonna roll with it. Some of you all may know her as the co-founder of the Brown Beauty Co-op, and the owner of Product Junkie. I have the pleasure to know her and call her my mentor. I am so anxious and nervous right now. I don't know why, but I'm just so excited to have this opportunity. So please bear with me. um Amaya, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about mentorship and change making. So we can just get started with like a little bit of an icebreaker. It's all about you today. So let's get started. Who is Amaya, the VP of Comms, co-founder of Brown Beauty Co-op, and all wonderful things Black Girl Magic? Who is Amaya? Give us a little taste.
That's such a big question. Well, afternoon, was it morning, afternoon? Everybody, still morning. It's like 11. So I'm impressed that like we have 18 participants here just to listen to me and Rachel chatter, which is our usual banter, probably what we talk about every day. Who is Amaya? I feel like I'm still figuring out who Amaya is. I just turned 41. Black don't crack.
Hey.
And I'm like and I feel like I'm in like a new phase of life because I've definitely been doing communications and been in like public policy and politics for a long time. And then, as Rachel mentioned, I have my side hustle, which is the business that I run, focusing on makeup and beauty products for Black women and women of color. So I have like this whole other passion that I discovered. Well, not really discovered. I mean, I kind of always liked beauty products, and been into that. But I think it's interesting. I think, especially for like women, and people in general, maybe it's like a US culture thing. I feel like people try to box you in life. It's like you have this one job and then you do this thing, and that's like all you do in life. And I have so many interests, like so many different things interest me. Like the business is amazing. I learned so many new things in business that are like relatable to the job that I do at the partnership. Like I meet so many interesting people who are out here being creative. Like I get to be around creatives. But I have like so many different interests, and like I'm all good with like having a life that, you know, openly explores like a lot of different things, right? And not thinking that I've got to be this one thing for the rest of my life. Like life is really long. If you want to do the same job forever, like kudos, like do that, find enjoyment in that. But like if you want to do other things, like do other things. So that's
Yeah,
the long and short of who I am.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I know I don't talk about this often, but I'm in a similar vein of like, I don't want to be like just the master of one. I would like to be a jack of all trades. This dude I follow on Instagram was like, which would you rather be? He did a little poll, and I said, I would like to be, the master of all. And he was like, well, you can't. And I was like, okay, then I will take jack of all trades, because I there's so much to learn. There's also so much to unlearn. And there's so much to learn about ourselves that
Ooh, that's a word right there. That is a word right there.
there is so much to learn.
Rewind that back. There is so much to
about
unlearn.
ourselves. I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Drop them in the chat.
It's there just is. And in my journey of being, 28 years old, living in a city by myself, I was like, I knew I always wanted to come to DC, but I was like, I want to do this. And then I decided, I applied to go to grad school at Howard. I got accepted. I was going to do, political science. That was my thing. But when I got out of after grad school, I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. And I was kind of struck by that. I was like, well, everything in my life, like I knew this is what I wanted to do. But once I got here, I was like, what happens after that? Because there's so much that should be happening after that. And so I just said, well, if I can't go this direction, what's over here? What's in this space? And that's how spending a year at home, because I ended up not going to Howard for grad school, obviously, because mainly not because of anything against Howard. Go HU, the real HU, and all that other stuff. My friends would kill me if I said anything otherwise. But my parents, they weren't able to afford it. And for me, I was just kind of like, I don't know if this is the only thing that I want to do. So coming here and being in DC and working for nonprofits, I was like, I definitely like serving other people. That was a start. And then coming to the partnership and meeting you, I'll never forget when you took me, I forget where you took me to lunch, but I'll never forget when you took me to lunch and you said, you have this skill as an organizer. You will be a great organizer. And that was largely encouraging, because I was like, an organizer? I didn't think of that. Like, what
I
does
don't
an
even
organizer
remember.
do?
I don't even remember telling you that. So hopefully it was
Look
good
at
advice,
you.
or you appreciate
Into my
it.
life. speaking into my life, and look at me now. I carry that with me everywhere I go, because you I mean, you really don't know it, but like, you really opened up a path for me to be who I am today, because of that encouragement, and because of really like basically just wrapping your arms around me and saying like, look, girl, you're bright, you're smart, you are dedicated, and you have this specific skill set. March forward. And for me, you give me an inch, I take 9 miles. I'm like, let's go. We're doing this. So I wanted to say thank you for that. First of all, I was like, I cannot do this without thanking her for that, because there's no way I would be where I am today if it weren't for you speaking those words of encouragement to me. So I
Welcome to
definitely
our love fest, y'all.
I love it. So speaking of you being my mentor, because at that day, literally, I was like, she's gonna be my mentor. I don't care. I don't care. I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna tell her. I was like, ma'am, I'm here to
I
stay.
love it, because I wasn't taking any mentee applications currently. Stop mentoring people, honestly.
I was like, nope, I'm here to stay. So understanding that, and just really thinking about our mentor mentee relationship, how has mentorship impacted you as a mentor and as a mentee? So how has mentorship impacted you from a mentor's
Yeah.
perspective and from a mentee perspective?
So I was really fortunate to have a really great mentor. Like when I first started in my career, like when I first graduated from American, I worked on Capitol Hill. That was my first job. I worked for my local member of Congress. I had actually interned there and did like work study for like a year. So I was kind of like already part of the office and I didn't really have any plans. And they were like, yeah, do you want to come on full time? And I'm like, of course. I don't have any other job offers out here. So I started working on the Hill like full time right after I graduated. And like short version of the long story is I didn't start in communications. I wanted to be a policy person, which I think like everybody like thinks they want to be when they get to DC, they want to be a policy person. I was like, I'm going to be a legislative assistant because that's the thing to do. And we had a communication, and I worked for a Congressional Black Caucus member, a CBC member, and the one sort of woman with authority in the office was the press secretary, and she was a Black woman. And my old boss, who I worked for, Congressman Albert Wynn, was a nut. And I will tell him that to this day. Like we have that kind of relation. We've had post therapy sessions about him being crazy. So you know, he was super fickle and was like moving, he was blowing through press secretaries, and she was probably like the second one or something like that. And like I was making $20,000 a year at that time.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. 20?
Yes, I was making $20,000 a year, like answering the phone and opening the mail. And mind you, this was post September 11th. And so literally like 9/11 happened maybe like a week or two into the full-time job. Anthrax had hit the Hill. Like it was pandemonium. So I was getting paid $20,000 to work in a war zone as far as I was concerned. Every other day the building was evacuated. Like it was ridiculousness. So I was like bartending on the side to like make ends meet. And you know, he went through like a couple more like while I was there in a short amount of time, I think he had fired, or like the current press secretary left. He got someone else. She lasted like a week. And everybody's salary is public on the Hill. So I went and looked to see how much money these people were making, because I'm like, clearly, like, I mean, it's a free for all. Anybody can like get a chance, right? So I look and I see like this person's making $45,000, and I'm like, put me in, coach. Put me in the game. Like, I want $45,000, right? I want that. Like that was my like really only motivation. I was like, I can do like communications. I'm a decent writer, blah, blah, blah. So the chief of staff did not want to hire me because I mean, he was smart enough to realize I was 21 years old. Like, so he was just like, you can do the job for a little bit until we hire a real comms person, right? I've heard that many times in life though since then. Somebody's gonna hire somebody real instead of me. But they always end up hiring me. So
exactly. So, how much realer can you get?
Yes. So he didn't have the last word, because the member ended up deciding like he appreciated me stepping forward, and he was like, you want the job? I'm putting you in. And he put me in the game, y'all.
That is how you do it. That is a clean substitution.
Yeah, put me in the game. So like some people will tell you no, but they don't have the last authority, right? Like they're not the manager's manager. Like, let me talk to your manager's manager. Right?
Let me talk to your manager's manager.
Ooh, let me talk to your manager's manager. Let me talk to your manager's manager. So anyway, so I'm 21 years old. I am now a press secretary on Capitol Hill. I have no business in this job. I don't know what I'm doing. So fortunately, my boss at the time hired a consultant on to help with like marketing and communications. So she was kind of like my paid mentor.
Oh wow.
But she went above and beyond. I mean, like above and beyond. Like she was the person who gave me my first national TV opportunity. She put me on TV. She forced me to talk
Wow.
to reporters all the time. She took me everywhere. She would walk me around the hill. She would walk me into Pelosi's office. She would walk me into the House gallery. She took me under her wing. She would take me to dinner. Like I just like had this amazing relationship with her. I mean, she was like a friend. I was like, went to her wedding. Like we were also close beyond just the work. And so like it taught me, granted, like she got a consultant salary, so it wasn't like all out of the kindness of her heart. But I also believe like sometimes you have to pay for your mentorship. So that's a whole nother theory that I have. Like you have to buy access. But she just taught me that you do have this responsibility, like when you have knowledge, to give it back and share with someone else. So
Wow.
that's my long answer to like what I've learned about mentorship and like the model that she set. And I feel like I've never been able to live up to Julia's model of mentorship. Like I try and get close. But yeah, I mean, she set an amazing standard.
Wow. I think I want to say for me, being your mentee again, as somebody who was like, "You're taking me on, I'm here, I'm not going nowhere." I it actually is funny because I told my parents, I said, "So I got a mentor. Her name's Amaya. She's like the only black lady in exec at my job. So like I'm here." They were like, my mom was like, "Rachel, did you ask her?" I was like, "I did," but like she has no choice. My mom was like, "Oh my gosh, girl." Okay. She was like, "Just
I
don't,
have done that before though. I believe in aggressively forcing people to be your mentor. I've done that to people too, honestly. So I can't even shade you for it. Like I can't even
oh,
shade you. I can't even shade you. Like sometimes you have to do what you gotta do to get like access and close to people who are busy and important. So I did that to Michelle Martin, who is a host on NPR, and I consider
oh."
Michelle Martin one of my mentors. And I guilt tripped her into it. I did. Like I totally did. I saw an opportunity. Like I was at a luncheon. I happened to be near her and we were chatting and I basically complained to her. I kind of negged her into mentoring, like you know how people negative you into
Right.
dating
It's
them.
like,
I negged her
please.
into I was like, I don't feel like there's enough black female mentors for like younger women, and I don't feel like y'all have done a great job.
I
She was just like, and then after that, she was like taking me places. So it worked.
She was like, "You're not about to include me. That's not about to include
Yeah.
me."
She was like, "You're not gonna include me in the shade. So like whenever you call me, I'll at least go to coffee." And that's all I needed. And like I can call Michelle Martin up to this day just off of so I'm with you, Rachel. I think like I mean, do what you gotta do to like, find a mentor. There's multiple ways to find mentorship and multiple models.
Yeah, and I think the best part that I enjoy most about being your mentee is that I knew from jump you were going to be somebody that was always going to tell me the truth, about myself, about any situation I'm in. You were not going to lie to me or try to like sugarcoat it, because there's one thing that I'm like, please don't try to manage my own expectations, because 9 times out of 10 I'm coming to it like I'm ready to learn. I'm always ready to learn. So it's like, no, I don't want to say there are no expectations. I expect to learn. That's my biggest expectation. And so to be in relationship with somebody who is like going to be honest with you, but not just like, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you and that's it. Like actively putting action. But you know what? We're gonna call it active honesty, because you could be honest and put no action behind it. But with you, it was always honesty with like, okay, this is where you are, change it. And here's how you change it. Or this is where you are, we could be here. Is this what you like to do? And there was always an ask. There was always an ask of me that put it back on me to say, what do you want, Rachel? And I know that's something that I always think of the community and how I want to help the community, because I'm all about like justice and authenticity and stuff like that. But when it comes to like what I want, I struggle a little bit, because it's like, well, if I'm not serving others, then like, I don't think I want anything else, but I do want something else. And what I want is to be able to learn and to be able to grow. It's like, I mean, I'm like a plant. Just give me water, sun, and soil, and I'm like, yes, growth, becoming a new thing. So really, that active honesty is what drove and like pretty much for me activated our relationship, because I always knew I could always come to you with a plan, and I wouldn't be put down, it wouldn't be punched down. If there was an issue with it, it was like, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, this is where the issue is, but I'm not just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna actively say, here's how, what do you want to do you want to change it, do you want to stay here, do you want to like make it better, here's what we can work on. So I really, really, really do appreciate that active honesty, because it just really has, I've seen how it's helped me grow. So thank you for that, of course. So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit to talking about change makers. That's something that I know I've heard briefly mentioned in conversation, that I've had with you, that I've had with Karen, that I've had with some other coworkers of mine. And I wasn't super like, it sounds simple, change maker, somebody who makes change, but I was just kind of like, I feel like there's something I'm missing, because I don't know if I fully understand the concept of being a change maker. So I looked up the definition, and once I found it, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. A change maker is someone who is taking creative action to solve a social problem. I got that definition from More Than Simply Good, Doing Good, a definition of a change maker. Understanding that definition, that a change maker is someone who is taking creative action to solve a social problem, I would venture to say, Amaya, that you're a change maker. You've done multiple things behind the scenes for a lot of us in this organization that a lot of people are not privy to. But I'm gonna tell y'all right now, give Amaya her flowers. Why you gotta give her flowers, because she's been working overtime. Give her flowers. Serious. So you have done multiple things, like I said, for us in this organization, from the hiring committee to simply being the first Black woman on the executive team at the partnership. How have you seen change making manifesting in the work that you do? It could be comms related, it could be not comms related, but how do you see change making manifesting itself in the work that you do?
So I hope I'm technically the first Black woman. I don't know if Jocelyn was on the exec committee or like the exec team was a different shape, but like Jocelyn Fry, who's at Center for American Progress, who's also on our board, was a staffer at the partnership for a while, but I don't know if she was on the exec board. I it's interesting. I think I think you can be a change maker in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different areas. I think we should all be open to change, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, especially, like we should all be open to change, right? Um, because like we all know and can see the structures around us, right? And like to be candid, like it's a lot of trash out here, right?
Mm,
Like it's a lot of structural garbage,
yeah.
right? And like if you're an intelligent person, if you're a critical thinker, then there's a lot of garbage. Like I always compare being a Black person to being like Neo in the Matrix all the time. It's like you always see through the structural bullshit, right?
Right. Right.
And like actively as a Black person, you're thinking like, do I want to change this, or like just let me just mind my business and chill? Because
Right. It's like you have to pick and choose.
yeah, so like there's like lots of change to be had, lots of change to make. And I think the challenge is with being a change maker or wanting change is like bringing other people along, right?
Mm, mm,
Like that is the biggest struggle, I think, or it's like the biggest question for anybody who considers themselves like an out the box thinker or somebody who doesn't like always subscribe to the status quo. I mean, I honestly think like I've accepted like, you know, I come into conversations and, you know, people may be having a conversation. I'm like, I literally think the opposite of what everybody in this conversation is talking about.
Right.
Right. And that's like,
Right.
okay. Like, I'm like, okay with being me at this point in life. Like, I'm okay with having unconventional opinions. But I think like being a change maker, you know, sometimes means bringing people along, which can be exhausting. And then sometimes it could mean like F it, like Harriet Tubman style, like everybody can't don't want to go to freedom, right? And so
Mm.
like don't drag everybody with you. And maybe you make change through singular actions or leading by example, and maybe everybody's not going to come with you in that moment. Like maybe 5 years from now people will be like, oh yeah, right. Right.
Like light bulb ding.
Yeah. So, because I feel like I don't know. See, that's like a whole nother thing where I'm like against sort of common, like conventional wisdom or thinking. Like, it's like this whole conversation we're having post election is like, we got to bring everybody with us. And it's like, you know, like sometimes everybody's not with you. Like, everybody's not on board the freedom train. Like, look at coronavirus. It tells you, like, everybody is not on board the train.
Right.
They don't even want to wear their damn mask, y'all. How are y'all gonna bring them to freedom? Like they don't even want to wear their mask. Like so so I do think that's a difficulty. That is one of the challenges of being a change maker, but there are many versions of being a change maker. I reject the idea that you have to be this consensus builder, like holding hands all the time. Like you could be a rebellious change maker and still make change, and that is a form of change. Like, and people do notice it.
Yeah. Another thing that you told me that stuck with me that you probably don't remember was I had came into your office and I was like, "Do you have a second?" You were like, "Girl, I got like 5 minutes." I was like, "Okay, real quick." Um, so like this is an issue that I'm dealing with and I want to do this, but I think it's too extreme. Like, what can I do? And you just sat down and like work with me through it. And then at the end, you were like, you know, Rachel, just keep disrupting whiteness. And I was like, say less, say less. I will continue to do that. Because I was like that disruption is for me, and I mean, like, there's no need to even be coy about it. Like, disrupting systems of oppression or anything that is just not, again, I'm a justice seeker, all about authenticity. Anything that's like harmful or doesn't align with that, I'm already like, that's not right. I have questions. I don't understand like why we need to keep doing that. And it's the point that you made about, you know, everything around us is trash. One thing that trash does, it rots, it decays, and eventually trash has to like go away. And so to see the structures that we see around us, you know, decaying in front of our faces, and then seeing people like, yeah, I love this. I like sitting in the trash. I like just chilling here. It's so it's been a struggle because like you said, you can't take everybody with you, and I'm learning to be comfortable with that, because at first I was like, nope, Noah's Ark, we gonna at least bring two of everybody onto the ark. But you know, maybe you don't need an ark, maybe you need a lifeboat. I mean,
Maybe be lifeboat. Yeah.
maybe it's just a smaller group of people. But
Maybe
the
it's a
thing
smaller.
is, the thing is that change happens on any level. It can happen on any level. You don't need a large crowd. You can have a large crowd, but you don't need that. If you change, I believe if you just change one person's mind, you have done a world of difference, because people get set in their ways. They get set
Yeah.
in their ways. And like I said, while there's so much to learn, there is so much that we have to unlearn. So to be
Yeah.
able to do that is like phenomenal. So just sitting with that of understanding that, you know, everybody might not make it on the train. Everybody might not make it in the boat. You might have to downsize your boat a little bit, but that doesn't take away from the change that you're bringing forward. So thank you for that. That was tight. Um, So as a Black woman, I wrote, I said, yes, we're going there, haha, but we've already been there and back. So as a Black woman, I've personally heard a lot of, oh, you're so brave to speak up, and wow, keep that fire. And as a Black woman who leans closer to the darker end of the spectrum, I am definitely a nice little like milk chocolate type of thing. That's why I got going.
Chocolate drop.
Right, a little chocolate drop. I've heard from the same people, you need to watch how you speak. Or, I mean, praise God, nobody has said you need to watch your tone, because that would have been awful. But you just need to watch how you speak. Or is that really something you think you can do? Or did you really mean to say that? I don't think you meant to say that. For the record, I want to be very, very clear. I mean what I say. I wanted to make that point. I mean what I say. I said what I said. I said what I said. So for me, it gets very heavy trying to like push up after being put down or told to
Yeah.
be more palatable to others. And of course, we always hear the cries of others for Black women to be the ones to save us, i.e., this election. Like I said, we already there. Let's stay there. What is your response or thoughts on the superhero moniker for Black women, as a change maker? So does being a superhero equate to being a change maker, in your opinion?
Hmm. That is an interesting, deep question. I feel like there's so many angles to that, right? I mean, I think that's a challenging question, right? Because Black women serving as superheroes and like these, I always say like I like want to put my cape down. It's like, let me take my cape off, y'all. Like all these Black
Right.
women just want me to take their cape off, right? Like they might be tired. I mean, the thing about that is, yes, Black women once again save the country, save democracy, but it's not clear if Black women save themselves at the same time, right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
so, you can be moving for like liberation of everybody, but like be sacrificing yourself at the same time, right? Like our liberation is not necessarily tied to like our liberation is not tied to Joe Biden getting elected. It
Oh,
just it
absolutely not. It's
even with
not.
Kamala, even with Kamala on the ticket,
Not
y'all.
even.
Like no
Not even.
shade, props to her. Like it's a complicated conversation between like pride and like let's hold her ass accountable.
Exactly.
So so yeah, so I do think like being sort of the cliche superhero of like this party and progressive movement doesn't necessarily equal change making. It could. I mean, I think we've seen like all women in general really mobilizing around this last election to be like aggressive as heck. Like, y'all gonna put some women in, y'all gonna put some women in. So I was looking at this meme on Twitter yesterday where they were debating. God, I love Twitter. They were talking about the some woman who was up for an appointment at National Defense, right? And
Mm.
so somebody put up a cartoon, and it was a satirical cartoon about, and it showed like somebody, it was like two people somewhere in the Middle East, like one woman and a man. The woman had like a hijab or like a scarf on, and they were basically like, and there was drones over top of them, and they were like, "This time a woman's gonna drop the drones." Like,
I
how
mean,
history making, right? And it was like, damn, right? Like,
I mean, but there's truth to it,
sorry
kind
to break up y'all celebrations, but like America has a lot of oppressive tendencies, and right, just changing, like, yes, not having Trump, yes, that is a good thing, right?
of.
Like
Right.
two things can live together. Like there are
That's
multiple truths, right? Donald Trump
also
was
true.
awful. We're glad he's gone. but like we still need to check Joe Biden and Kamala, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they are not our saviors, right? Like
Right.
we are our own like saviors, right?
Right.
So I think that's an excellent question. I think it's a complicated one of like trying to help and save the broader society, including a majority of white people.
Right.
Whether that actually leads to making change for Black people, I think is, sometimes still a question.
Yeah. I after looking at the question again, I was like, well, what do I think? And I think that I have resentment towards the term superhero because of who it's usually coming from. I don't hear Black women tell me, "Oh my God, you're such a superhero! Like you saved the day, you saved the world. Like we love you, Supergirl." Is I've never heard that from
Yeah.
a Black woman, and it's always been from white people, and I've always just kind of taken it as ew,
Yeah.
because being a superhero is like, when I think of being a superhero, part of me thinks of you know, the representation of superheroes. I am definitely a comic book nerd. Shout out to my uncle. He was the one who was like, I'm gonna give you all my old Batman comics, my old, like all my old comics you're gonna get. And I
Yeah.
think about the Black Green Lantern, John Stewart.
Hmm.
He was one of my favorite superheroes because it was representation. Like I didn't
Yeah.
really have a whole lot to look at or a whole lot to know about. I mean, I've started learning about Black Panther later on in life, but Jon Stewart was the first one I saw every Saturday morning on the cartoons. And I would always watch like how they treated him, and it was like any other. I mean, Superman was an alien who happened to be white, and they treated him with like, they're like, we're gonna give you a statue, you get everything. Like, yes, but Jon Stewart, even as a superhero, still has struggles, most of them racism, but it was like, how can you be a superhero and still be dealing with such bullshit? Like how does racism like
Yeah.
transcend so much? So I've always had like a bit of a like not really banging with the superhero
Yeah.
title, but Changemaker to me is more descriptive,
Yeah.
and it's not, it doesn't give you any illusions. The
Yeah.
definition I literally said is somebody trying to create change for a social problem. So you know that
Yeah.
there's gonna be some type of heartache, some type of hardship, because changing is uncomfortable, it's difficult, but it's something that if we want to grow, we have to lean into. So I just thinking about that question, you're right. It is a complicated question, because superheroes do get treated with a certain level of respect, but they also can experience the same issues,
Yeah.
racism, that
Yeah.
regular people experience. So
Yeah, I
I
mean, it's like, I mean, to me, superhero is like the new magical Negro, right? Like
oh God, yes.
that's yeah, I mean, it's you're the magical Negro. That's why I frequently call myself at jobs is I'm the magical Negro, right? And so I'm the Negro who comes and waves my wand and makes magic happen, right? It's what is it, like the Green Mile is where it originally came from, the movie, right? Where Black people are there to be of service, to be to the greater
Yeah.
good, to be self-sacrificial, to not think about their own needs, and they're here to help and save us, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Oprah stereotype, right?
Oh
Like,
God.
your favorite Black auntie, even though you're not Black, right? Who's here to
Right.
manage all your problems and like hear all your woes, right? Like it's a
Right.
stereotype. We're humans too. We got our own issues, right? Like you can't be saving everybody.
Exactly. And on top of that, sometimes I just want to chill. Like I just want to be regular and relax. I don't want to have to like, let me put on this doggone cape. I gotta go outside and like fight all
I
these
love
people.
it.
This be
No,
time
I'm
I
with you.
figure out
How
my
much
day.
time
I
do
don't.
you have for questions? I'm time checking you.
Yes,
What's
thank you so much. We have one last question that we are doing. I do see a question in the Q&A, so I do want to invite people to definitely go ahead and drop questions in the Q&A. I'm not sure what the captions have. Okay, cool. They had like pause for a second, but please drop questions in the Q&A, and Travis will be unmuting people if you raise your hand in the Zoom. If you want to come on live and ask a question. So my last question, Amaya, is we talked a lot about change making and mentorship. And I wanted to know, do you think that those two go hand in hand? Can you be a mentor um without being a change maker, or can you be a change maker without being a mentor? Like, do the two have to, are they married to each other, or can they be two separate things?
Oh, I think indeed those things can live like separately. Like there's a lot of people mentoring people to do really awful things. Like there's a lot of people who who are out here mentor. Like I've heard people say like my mentor told me this, and I'm like that's awful.
Oh
Like
my
I don't know why
god,
your mentor is propagating bad
I
culture to you. So I think like you like being a mentor doesn't necessarily mean like making change. Because lots of folks have mentors or people who kind of help them and move them along in their career. And like sometimes your mentor is like just teaching you how to navigate the status quo. Like your mentor might be actually doing the opposite of teaching you to make change, right?
yeah,
Like I mean, that's not a knock to that though. You
right,
know, I mean, different people want different things, but yeah, the two should not be confused. They're not the
yeah,
same thing at all. A mentor is not necessarily a change maker. Um, but there are some people who can create change just with their mentorship, right? Like
yeah,
people who have access to power, mentoring people who have less access to power. Like whenever I see that, I'm like, okay, that's a
yeah,
change, right? Like that's a big deal. You probably have put that person in places where they would not have normally been or be seen, right? And
right,
that can be change in
right.
itself. Um, but there is a lot of mentorship that upholds the status quo. It's kind of
I mean,
program.
we you can see it. You can see it. You can see it. I'll never forget, somebody at the partnership told me who their mentor was, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I was like,
No
don't
shade,
know
no
what's going on
shade,
over there. No shade, no
shade,
shade, no
no
shade.
shade.
I was like, but yeah. So this makes me appreciate Amaya and what we talk about, what we got going on, because sis, what's that? But again, no shade, no tea. But I wanted to say thanks for answering all of my pre-written questions. So now we'll open it up for pretty much a free for all for questions. I just ask that y'all please keep it respectful. That's it. I mean, if you don't like, I'll kick you out. But please keep it respectful.
This is not
Um,
Reddit, Rachel. It'll be fine. I'm sure everybody is respectful.
so so we have a question. How do you cope with the sheer fatigue of combating racism, especially when we appear to be making so little progress?
Um,
Um,
I mean, that's a good question. I would say I'm trying to answer this and not be like cynical and like jade everybody, but like I've just worked a lot of places, you know, like I've worked for a lot of big entities. Like I worked for the Democratic Party, like I worked on Capitol Hill, I worked at the AFL-CIO for the longest stint in my career, which was just a big massive organization. And I think people have this like mythology that they're going to move on to someplace else and there's going to be magic and rainbows and unicorns there. And like everybody is struggling with these same issues and these same challenges, right? And there are, there's like two kinds of workplaces right now. Like the places that aren't talking about it and just pretending it doesn't exist, which, can be stress free to a certain extent because you can go do your work, mind your business, and go home in
Right.
theory, and just, take your micro and macro aggressions and bitch about them at happy hour. Or there are the places that claim that they want to have a very public conversation about race until you start having a very public conversation about race.
Mm.
Um, and so, you're fatigued because you are having to talk about this all the time at work. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like kind of like pick your poison essentially. But I will say, like my last job at the AFL-CIO, chief of staff, completely racist.
100%.
100%. 100%. This is not a secret word on the street. Anybody will tell you that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and like honestly, we had a really good working relationship though. Like racist, he and I like, could easily have a conversation and understand like where the other person was. We didn't agree on things, but he was the type of person to be like, he once told me, he was like, Amaya, why do you have to make everything about race all the
Oh
time?
my God.
I was like, what? Like, I'm not even that person, honestly. Like, I wasn't even that person at that job. Like, so I was
Also,
like,
look around. Look around. Just look
what are you talking
around.
about? Yeah. So, I mean, yes, I mean, I think like it's fatiguing, but it's just really tired. It's tiring being Black, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
tiring. And I mean, the thing that gives me energy is talking. Like, I talk to a lot of other people outside of this organization.
Right.
Like, I always try to have a large network of people that I can talk to that can give me other perspectives. Like it's hella worse out here, y'all. Like I have like I have a good friend who works at a think tank, like policy, democracy, and transparency organization, right? And so, of course, it's run by white people because white people think they have all the knowledge on democracy and transparency
And
and
progressiveness and
and
liberalism.
yeah. I mean, them figuring out like who hacked the election was all about them. Mind you, they hacked the election to tamper with Black people, but whatever. So we have no collective knowledge in that field. And I mean, this is like one of my good friends. She's freaking brilliant. She's one of the smartest people I know. She did a lot of her work as a trial attorney, which like people don't appreciate as lawyers because like a lot of folks don't lawyer. Um, they do other things. And like the amount of disrespect that she's a phenomenal writer. Because she is a good trial attorney, she is a persuasive arguer and speaker. And the amount of shit that I hear that she takes from people on this job, and that I hear from Black women every single day who are brilliant
Yeah.
and constantly get questioned about what they know and their knowledge, it's like ridiculous. So like I gain strength from like talking to other people and talking to friends and realizing like everybody's out here struggling. It's bigger than you. Um yes, I'm fatigued. We're all fatigued.
Yeah, I'll say for me, I don't think I could work with your boss because I would have been like, what you mean I'm making everything about race? Have you seen what is going on in the outside? I would have just been like, sir, we need to like get it together.
Well,
But
he
I'll
did
say
tell me how he has a Black grandson. So that was like his card about,
was
he
it
roll out his black grandson.
did it some was it Matthew Getz or whatever his name is, where he was like, oh, I have like people of color in my family, and I was like, sir, first of all, what we have to understand is anti-Blackness is global. So if you mean Black people, I highly recommend saying Black people, not just lumping everybody other people of color, because some Black people don't identify as people of color. Just wanted to put that out
Right.
there.
A lot of people don't want to be called Blacks.
I mean, that too, that we see it. But I just find it, I think for me, especially as somebody who is fatigued, like one of the better things is being able to come to the safe space with people who are like me. Like being with
Yeah.
other Black women has been the driving force of like I want to keep going. And also like I want to make sure that this place is like safe and equitable for all of us, because the pain is collective. This year we've seen a lot of collective grief, especially in the
Yeah.
Black community. Rest in power to all of our fallen sisters, brothers, and siblings that we lost this year due to just violence. And to know that like grief can be collected like that, and pain and harm can be collected like that, is very, very important. And I try to make sure for me that I keep a network of Black women around, because it's just like you want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And I think that we draw on each other's energies to like
Yeah.
fill in those spaces that are kind of vacant. And it could be a safe place, especially, I mean, like, it doesn't matter what you talk about. You can talk about favorite show, weather, whatever, but the ability, and I think that's what I enjoy the most, and this is how I deal with the fatigue, is divesting from whiteness. Not having to be involved with whiteness, not having to sit there and have it foisted upon me, where people like,
Yeah.
oh, let me tell you about like my feelings and like all this stuff that like you really don't care about, because you are a Black woman who's clearly dedicated to like some type of change, I'm gonna just like dump all this stuff on you. No, I don't want that. And that's one thing that I will say that I love, that I'm really enjoying about quarantine, is being able to opt out of whiteness. Opting out of whiteness has been the best thing that's ever happened to me. I will be
Yeah.
100% about that. We do have 3 more minutes, so I would like for folks who have questions to please feel free to drop another in the Q&A, or raise your hand and Travis can take you off of mute. Um, but in the interim, I do want to say that I do hope that this conversation, I don't know why the word was not coming up, but I do hope that this conversation has been transformative for folks. Natasha has a question. She's raised her hand. Hello.
My nose is running, y'all.
Uh-oh. You might want to come off mute, Natasha. There you go.
Am I off mute now?
You
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Thanks for having this forum. I had to walk out, so I missed part when you were talking about superhero, and I was just wondering if it was kind of like um, Rachel. I thought I heard you say kind of mixed emotions, and I was wondering if it's sort of like behind, particularly Black women, people of color, what have you, this notion like we get called superhero because we're taking on this extraordinary things, whatever those things are, whether it's in the community, whether it's within our families. We have to deal with so many different things, and like we're expected to smile and get through it, and like we don't get to unload, particularly in work, and and so typically then you get called like this superhero, you're the superwoman because you're taking on that. And so I was just wondering if that's sort of what you were talking about as far as like the mixed feelings.
Yeah, it's definitely the idea of like, oh, you're our savior, we love you. But it's like, no, I'm not your savior, I'm your mule. I'm your mule, because you're like, here, you're taking all of this mess that we're putting at you and you're not buckling. Amazing. I can't believe it. And that's how I feel the superhero moniker comes off to me like that. It's like we're dumping all of this, and it's the part that's really frustrating is they know that it's bullshit. And they're like, "Oh, we're dumping it on you and you're still standing?" And you're actually changing. Well, I'm changing stuff because this stuff is hurting my back. I want to take it off. I don't want it. I'm not doing this out of the goodness of my heart or to be like altruistic and saving somebody else, or another group of people. I'm not here to save white people. I'm just not. I'm not here to save white people. I'm here to demand justice. I'm here living my most authentic truth, living in my truth, and being me authentically. So don't call me a superhero because you put so much on my back and you're just amazed at the fact that I haven't crumbled. Because the thing is, once you crumble, then it's like, yeah, we knew you couldn't handle it. We knew you were just a lowly human being. And it's like, we're gonna keep shitting on you because we know that you actually can't do anything. So that's my qualms with the superhero moniker.
That's a good question, Natasha.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.
So it is 12:01. I'm not sure if there are any other questions, but if there are any other questions, sorry, because we're about to end. I want to give a huge round of applause and a huge thank you to Amaya for coming in and having just sitting down and having this conversation with me, and then having it in this open forum type venue. I wanted to say thank you so much for that. And I wanted to leave you a couple of minutes to do some closing remarks and words and stuff like that.
Well, technically I'm supposed to be in another meeting. So but this was great. I'm like impressed that like at least 13 people hung around to listen to me and Rachel do our usual banter. So hopefully somebody got some nuggets out of it. And I feel like me and Rachel got a chance to be our authentically Black self and like give y'all a bird's eye view into like the convo and what we chat about, right? So for transparency, and yeah, hopefully the mentorship conversation was informative as well. It was good chatting. Thanks, Rachel. You did a great job. And you've been doing a great job leading a lot of these individual discussions. So thank you for taking initiative and doing these and having the energy. So.
Oh, thank you so much for encouraging me. Like I said, none of this would be possible if it weren't for you just speaking those words and to be at lunch that one day. So I'm gonna say thank you to everybody. Thank you so much to Travis for being our tech support on this call. Thank you so much to everybody who showed up. I will say that this has been a wonderful series. We are definitely closing out the empowerment series with a bang. And I just want to say thanks. It's been fun. It's been real fun. So y'all have a great rest of the day, and be on the lookout for the final recording. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Travis.